Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. There's a lot of situations where an extra $1,000 can feel like the difference between staying afloat and watching everything fall apart. Maybe your rent is due, maybe your car just broke down, or maybe you have a utility bill that's just staring you in the face. Or life just decided to throw you one of those surprise expenses at the worst possible time. And when that happens, most of us will start looking for the fastest way to get money into our bank accounts. But here's the problem. Not every fast money option is created equal. There are some methods that help you get through a temporary emergency and just keep moving on. And there are other methods that can put you in a financial hole that is so deep, the original problem starts looking small compared to the new one that you just created. So in this video, we're going to break down several ways you can access $1,000 today. That is going to be very quick. This is not going to be experimental or in theory. These will actually work. We'll also cover the pros and the cons of each option and the dangerous ones that you should probably avoid unless you absolutely have no other choice. And like I said, these will be realistic ways, so it's not going to be anything that I think is out of the box, but something that you may have overlooked or not just considered. And later in this video, I'm going to show you how you can help avoid being in this situation in the first place. Because the goal is not just to survive the emergency, the goal is to make sure the next emergency doesn't have you scrambling or panicking. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first way that people think about getting cash quick is by using a credit card for a cash advance. Now, a credit card cash advance basically allows you to go to an ATM, you would insert your credit card and withdraw cash against your credit limit. Now, of course, this option will vary based on your credit card issuer, but in most instances, you may be able to take out a portion of your available credit limit, sometimes around 20 to 30%. So for example, if you have a $5,000 credit card limit, you might be able to pull out $1,000 or more in cash almost instantly. On the surface, that sounds convenient. You don't need to apply for a new loan. You don't have to wait days for approval. You don't need to explain your emergency to anyone. But this is where you have to be careful. A credit card cash advance is usually one of the most expensive ways to borrow money. Most credit card companies charge a cash advance fee right away. That fee is usually around 3 to 5% of the amount you withdraw. So if you take out $1,000, you might immediately owe an extra $30 to $50 just for accessing that cash. And unlike regular credit card purchases, cash advances usually don't come with a grace period. That means interest will start accruing immediately. And with credit card interest rates being extremely high, especially for people with average or poor credit, you could be looking at APRs around 25 to 30% or even higher than that. So yes, a cash advance can get you money quickly, but it is expensive money. And if you don't have a plan to pay it back quickly, that $1,000 can turn into a much bigger problem later. So I recommend if you use this option, you want to treat it like a fire extinguisher. It's there for emergencies, but you don't want to use it casually just because you want to buy something or cover poor budgeting habits. The next option is a cash advance app. Now, these apps have become extremely popular because they feel less intimidating than a traditional loan or credit cards. These are apps like EarnIn, Bridget, Dave, MoneyLion, and similar platforms that allow you to access a small amount of money before your paycheck arrives. Instead of borrowing thousands of dollars from one place, these apps will usually give you a small advance, often somewhere between $50 to $300. Some users may qualify for more depending on their income, their banking history, and account activity. The benefit is that the fees are usually much smaller than credit card cash advances or payday loans. Some apps don't even charge a traditional interest, but they may charge a subscription fee or an instant transfer fee. There's also optional tips or other service fees. And for someone who just needs a small amount of money to cover gas, groceries, a bill, or something urgent before payday, this can be a better option than swiping a credit card or going to a payday lender. But let me be very clear. Cash advance apps can still become dangerous if you start depending on them every single pay period. Because think about what's really happening. You're not creating income, you're borrowing from your future paycheck. So if you borrow $200 today, the app pulls that same $200 from your next paycheck. Now your next paycheck is $200 short. Then you might need another advance, then another one, and then before you know it, you're stuck in a cycle where every paycheck is already spent before it even hits your bank account. That is how a short-term solution turns into a long-term habit. So if you use a cash advance app, you want to use it for a temporary situation, not as part of your normal monthly budget. It should help you bridge a gap, not become the bridge you live on. And recently I released a video on apps that loan you money instantly or same day. So if you would like to see a comprehensive breakdown of these apps, I'll link that video right here. Now let's talk about personal loans. A personal loan can be a stronger option if you need more than a few $100s and you want a structured repayment plan. Unlike a cash advance app where you may have to repay the money on your next paycheck, a personal loan usually gives you several months or even several years to pay that money back. That makes it easier for you to manage payment without completely destroying your next paycheck. Depending on the lender, you may be able to borrow $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, or even much more than that. Now, the exact amount depends on your income, your credit profile, your banking history, your debt, and that lender's approval requirements. The biggest benefit of a personal loan is predictability. Now, you usually know your payment amount, your interest rate, your repayment term, and when that loan needs to be fully paid off. That's a lot cleaner than borrowing from random short-term sources and hoping that everything just randomly will work out. Some online lenders can also fund you very quickly. Now, depending on the lender, the time you apply, and whether your application is approved, you may be able to receive funds the same day or the next business day. But there's a catch. Most personal loans require some type of approval process, so that may include a credit check or income verification, a bank account review, employment verification, or some combination of all of those. And if your credit is damaged, then your approval odds may be lower. Even if you are approved though, the interest rate may be much higher than what someone with excellent credit would have received. That's why your credit profile matters so much. When your credit is strong, you usually have more choices. When your credit is weak, you're often pushed towards the more expensive options. That's why you never want to wait until you're desperate to start working on your credit. You want to build your credit before the emergency happens, not after. A personal loan can be a solid option for getting $1,000 or way more than that very fast, but only if the payment fits your budget. Never borrow money just because you qualify. You want to borrow because you have a clear plan to repay. I made a video at the beginning of this year covering the best personal loans in 2026, and I organized the options based on your credit score. Now, if you're interested in watching that video, I'm going to link that right here. Another option that a lot of people overlook is borrowing from a credit union. Now, many people think that credit unions are basically the exact same thing as banks, but they're not the same whatsoever. Credit unions are member-owned, not-for-profit financial institutions, and because of that, they often have better rates, lower fees, and a more community-focused approach than traditional banks. If you have a relationship with a credit union, you might be able to qualify for a small personal loan, a payday alternative loan, or a secured loan option, or an emergency loan product if that's available to you. The rates are often much better than payday loans, title loans, or credit card cash advances, and because credit unions are built around memberships, they may look at more than just your credit score. They may consider your banking history, your income, your relationship, and your overall financial picture. Now, this doesn't mean that credit unions approve everyone. You still have to qualify, but for many people, especially those with fair credit or thin credit profiles, a credit union can be a much more reasonable place than a big bank or an online high-interest lender. The downside is speed. If you need money in, let's say, the next hour, then a credit union may not be the fastest option. You may need to become a member first, you may need to submit documents, you may need to wait for underwriting. The process could take a few days or longer. But if you can wait a little bit, a credit union may save you a lot of money compared to the faster and riskier options. So if you're watching this before you're in an emergency situation, one smart move might be to join a local credit union right now. You want to build a relationship, open an account, keep it active, and that way when you need the help, you're not starting from zero. I have an entire credit union playlist on this channel where I cover many different credit unions. If you need recommendations on where to start looking, then I highly recommend checking those videos out. Now, this next option is a little different because it may not put $1,000 in your bank account directly, but it can help you avoid spending $1,000 all at once. Now, I'm talking about buy now, pay later services. These are platforms like Affirm, Klarna, Afterpay, or PayPal Pay. You have 4 payments that allow you to split purchases into smaller payments over time. So for example, instead of, let's say, you paying $400 today for something you need, you may be able to split that into 4 payments of $100. That means you keep more cash in your bank account right now and you spread the cost over the next few weeks. Now, this can be useful for, let's say, a necessary purchase. It's also possible to turn certain buy now, pay later services into cash, but the method will depend on the platform that you're using. So for example, Cash App has a pay over time feature that may allow eligible users to turn recent peer-to-peer payments or purchases into a short-term loan. With places like Affirm or Klarna or even Afterpay, you may be able to use the apps to create a loan for a specific purchase amount on a website where that option isn't directly integrated. One example would be using Affirm's virtual card feature to make a purchase through an online store that you control. So in that situation, you would technically be paying your own business, which would have the money go to you directly in the form of cash, but you would not receive the full amount because of payment processing fees, interchange fees, and deposit costs that would reduce the actual amount that lands in your account. However, keep in mind that buy now, pay later can also become a financial trap if you use it for things you simply want, because these services make purchases feel cheaper than they really are. So a $600 item may not feel like $600 when the app says it's only 4 easy payments of $150. But guess what? No matter how you slice it, it's still $600. And when you have 5 different buy now, pay later plans hitting your account at different times, it can get messy really fast. Some buy now, pay later plans are also interest-free if you pay on time or within a short repayment window. But longer term plans may charge you interest. They also have late payments that may trigger fees, and some services may report activity to the credit bureaus depending on the account and your repayment behavior. So this option may help preserve cash in the short term, but it should be used very carefully. And please do not use buy now, pay later to justify buying things you don't actually need. The Nintendo Switch, the shoes, the new TV, the random Amazon cart full of essentials that are somehow all luxury items, all of those things can wait. You want to use buy now, pay later as a tool, not as a permission to overspend. Now let's talk about an option that doesn't get nearly enough attention: hardship grants and emergency assistance programs. These are programs offered by nonprofits, churches, local governments, charities, and community organizations to help people who are dealing with real financial emergencies. Unlike loans, grants usually don't have to be paid back. That is the good news. But the challenge is that these programs are not always instant, and you usually have to prove that you actually need help. So for example, if you're behind on rent, you may need to show an eviction notice or a past due balance. If your utilities are about to be shut off, you may need to show a shut off notice. If you have medical emergencies, you may have to provide documentation. Now, these programs are typically designed for people facing serious hardship. They're not for someone who just wants extra spending money for the weekend, but if you're really struggling, this can be one of the best options because it doesn't create new debt. A good starting point is calling 211. In many areas, 211 is able to connect you with local assistance programs for rent, utilities, food, housing, transportation, and other emergency needs. You can also check government resources like local churches, community action agencies, and nonprofit organizations in your area. Now, this may not get you $1,000 today. It may take a few days or weeks depending on the program, but if you qualify, it can solve the problem without adding another monthly payment to your life. And sometimes the best financial move is not finding a new loan. Sometimes the best move is finding help that doesn't have to be repaid. Now, here's an option that a lot of people don't think about, and that's a 401k loan. Now, if you have money sitting in a workplace retirement account, your employer's plan may allow you to borrow against it. And this will surprise a lot of people because they assume that retirement money is completely locked away until they're older. But depending on your plan's rules, you may be able to borrow from your 401k without taking an early retirement withdrawal. In many cases, you may be able to borrow up to 50% of your vested account balance with a max loan amount of $50,000. So if you have $21,000 sitting in your 401k, you may be able to borrow up to $10,000. If you have $100,000, you may be able to borrow up to $50,000. One of the biggest benefits is that there is no credit check. You're borrowing from your own retirement balance, so the approval process can be easier than applying for a traditional loan. Another benefit is that the interest you pay typically goes back into your own 401k account instead of going to a bank or to a lender. That sounds great, and in some situations, it can be very useful, but there are some serious risks. First, if you leave your job or you lose your job, the loan may become due much faster than expected. If you cannot repay it, the unpaid balance may be treated like a withdrawal that could trigger taxes and penalties if you're under the required age. Second, when you borrow from your 401k, that money is no longer invested in the same way. So if the market grows while your money is out, you could be missing out on potential gains. Third, borrowing money from a retirement account could become a bad habit if you're using that money to cover overspending instead of a real emergency. So a 401k loan may be better than a payday loan or a title loan, but it's still not something to take lightly. Your retirement account is supposed to protect future you. Do not rob future you unless current you has a real emergency and a real repayment plan. Now let's talk about the bigger picture, because needing $1,000 fast is very stressful. But even more stressful is needing $1,000 fast and having bad credit, no emergency fund, and no lending options and no plan. That's where improving your credit becomes so important. When your credit is damaged, your options are very limited. You may get denied for a traditional loan, or you may only qualify for higher interest offers. You may be forced to consider payday loans, title loans, or other predatory products because the better options are not available to you. But when your credit improves, everything changes. You may be able to qualify for better personal loans, or you may get approved for better credit cards with higher limits and better terms. You may be able to access credit union products with lower interest rates and emergency funding without feeling desperate. That's why I always tell people that credit is not just about getting a credit card. Credit is about having options. And one platform that can help you start building those options is Rising.com. Rising is designed to help people take control of their credit by giving them access to dispute tools, education tools, and resources that can help them better understand what's going on with their credit report and what steps they can take to improve it. If you have collections, charge-offs, late payments, hard inquiries, repossessions, or any negative items affecting your credit profile, you need to know what's reporting and how it's reporting and what your next step should be. With Rising, you can take action through tools like custom dispute templates, bureau response tracking, and rent and utility reporting to build positive history. On top of that, you can backdate 24 months of reporting, giving you 2 years of on-time payment history. This will increase your account age overnight with these trade lines. Right now, you can access this platform for $1 through their 7-day trial, and you can also download the app on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. If your credit is strong, you may have access to 0% APR credit card offers, personal loans, credit union loans, higher credit limits, or other tools that give you breathing room. If your credit is weak, you may be stuck choosing between bad credit options. So instead of waiting until you need money desperately, start working on your credit now. Go to Rising.com, look at the tools that are available, and begin improving your credit today. Because no matter what we do, emergencies are going to happen. The question is whether you're going to be prepared when they actually do. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. So those are several ways to get $1,000 fast, but the best option really depends on your situation. A credit card cash advance is fast, but it can be expensive. Cash advance apps can help you with small gaps, but they can become a paycheck trap. Personal loans can be very useful if you qualify and you can afford the payments. Credit unions may offer better rates, but they may take a little more time. Buy now, pay later can preserve cash, but it also can encourage overspending. Hardship grants can help without creating debt, but they usually require proof and some patience. A 401k loan can be powerful, but it comes with retirement risk. But the real lesson is this: the best time to prepare for a financial emergency is before you're in one. You want to build your credit, build an emergency fund, and build relationships with better financial institutions. Learn your options before you actually need them, because when you're desperate, everything looks like a good solution. But when you're prepared, you can make a smarter decision. And if your credit is one of the main reasons you keep getting pushed towards bad options, then check out Rising.com and start working on improving your credit profile now. Do not wait until life puts you in a corner. Get prepared and get your credit together, and make sure that the next time you need money, you have much better options. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching this. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel for more videos on credit, personal finance, and building a better financial future. And again, thank you so much for watching this video, and you guys have a wonderful day.